What is up, everyone? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we will be reacting to part 1 of the IndyCar Split series on the NASCAR Men History channel. I am very much looking forward to this. One of you requested I react to this series. I'm reacting to the Dirt series at the moment. That is going really well. I absolutely love that series so far. And I've been saying, like, I've done a couple IndyCar videos and I've been reacting to the highlights to each race recently, but I want to dive even deeper into the sport, and I feel like this will give me a good insight into IndyCar. So I'm looking forward to it. But before we do that, make sure you subscribe. Over half of you that are watching my videos start subscribed. Just hit the bell, it takes 2 seconds, and if you'd like to become a member on my channel and receive exclusive perks, you can also do that by hitting the join button down below. Right, let's go.
May 26, 1996, 16th Street and Georgetown Road on the west side of Indianapolis, Indiana.
8 years before I was born.
That gave birth to the world's greatest race course back in 1909. The same place that has come to host the world's largest single-day sporting event. And the same event that's made names like Foyt, Unser, and Mears famous all over the world. But today, a new era begins at the Indianapolis 500.
This is the story of
it's race day in
the Split.
Indianapolis.
Okay. Give it to me.
The 1996 Indianapolis 500 was one of the most stunning races in the event's long history. The cars had never been faster, the drivers were inexperienced and obscure, and it was at the heart of the biggest political fight in American racing history.
Oh, I've heard about this.
It was a dramatic, strange, tragic, exciting, anger-filled battleground race, the likes of which have never been seen before or since. In the 1960s, IndyCar racing was unified and strong.
I love all of this
Indianapolis Motor
old
Speedway
footage.
owner Tony Holman worked closely with USAC, creating a strong connection between the Indy 500 and the entire season. Decades later, that would be only a memory.
We have
Wow.
a potentially huge international sport. For instance, with long-term rules that are set up to go 3 to 5 years, I'm sure we would get participation from foreign teams. The Porsche factory, possibly. The French Renault factory. They're all very interested
The noise
in
of the
coming
cars
to
in the background.
the biggest race in the world on its own, but also they would go to the rest of the Indianapolis series, and it would just be a tremendous thing.
1979.
It was obvious that
Wow.
IndyCar racing could not support two groups. Both car owners and drivers were determined to show that the new kids on the block were unified.
One astute observer said that IndyCar racing today is like an ice show, with the stars being those few teams that win, all others members of the chorus.
Wow, the car just
Have
fell
not
apart.
will try to effect changes to make their lot better, while the car halves will try to keep the status quo.
At the end of 1989, Penske was accused of convincing CART to change the rules in a manner that helped the Chevy engines and hurt their rivals. Penske could decide who got the engines
So they
and
were
who
just
didn't.
screwing
Adding
over
to that,
the
the cost to compete
smaller
was
teams.
rising out of control.
There's an air of discontent in
Right.
the IndyCar pits these days. Many car owners are concerned, even upset, over a wide range of issues. That to keep a car in the top 5 requires an annual budget of $5 million. Until Sunday, all races have been dominated by 3 teams, all of which use Chevy engines and are owned by CART directly.
I can't imagine
This
if you put like
all-dominant
a
power plant is not
figure
generally
together now
available, which
for
rankles
one of the top
have-nots
teams in
no
like
end. Why
F1
should I pay to race when I know I can't
on
win?
across the
is
entirety of
oft-asked question
everything
the Chevy policy raises.
they spend
Repeated
money on.
changes in engine and chassis rules, leading to increased
Must be,
costs,
like, through
are
the
said
roof.
by owners to reflect poor management.
Because the
Fewer
cars,
and
let
fewer
alone,
cars
are
showing up for the races. At
costing,
Sunday's
like,
Quaker
so
State
much.
500 at Pocono, only 26 cars went under the green flag.
At the same time, Formula One was concerned with CART as well. In 1990, the
Upon this
FIA
plan
considered
for oval
creating an
track.
oval series to fight CART. Away from their international ambitions, IndyCar and the Indy 500 were split in almost
I wonder
every
if we'd
way.
ever see
USAC controlled the rules for the Indy 500, and the rule package for
F1
the
move
race didn't
to
always
that
match CART's rules for the
oval
entire
racing.
season.
The owners
imagine
will
how
also be
crazy that
talking
would be to
about
watch.
this letter sent to them earlier this week by the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Vice President Tony
But yeah,
Jordan.
I know that
In it,
IndyCar
he
is an
scolds
American
USAC
series.
and CART for not communicating
Could you imagine
on
if they did what
1990
F1
rules. It
That's
says,
why they travel
quote, if CART
worldwide.
is serious about reorganization, and if they're serious about a
That
governing
would be
body
mind-blowing.
truly independent of political and financial interests, Perhaps consideration should be made toward a common rules committee for USAC and CART. Now, many are saying that the Speedway is going to have to step forward and play a leadership role if IndyCar racing is to grow and prosper.
By the late 80s, CART leaders were provoking the Indianapolis Speedway with high levels of overconfidence. They were vocal in their belief that the Indy 500 was popular because of them, and not the other way around.
What I see for the Indy, just a bunch of little rich kids that don't really race for a living. They just come into the thing and they buy a ride and they go fairly fast.
Shots fired.
Two thoughts on it. One thought is the closeness and the quick reactions you have to have running these cars in a tight group teaches you how to race and how to run traffic. But these cars, the difference is in these cars you're at the back of the car and you're the first one to know when the back end's going to get loose. In the Speedway cars, you're at the front of the car, so you're the last one to know when the back end's going to get loose. So it takes a much finer feel.
The super modifieds, they have good power, but just doesn't get you the road racing experience that you need. Doing the midgets first is, it's a good way to start and all, but I think, once you get done with that, you got to move up into the Formula cars and run the same circuits that the Indy cars are running.
That's
Sprint
fair.
car midget racing helps a lot when you're racing the Indy cars, like during the Indy 500, the race itself. But the practice and the qualification is just means laps. You have to do a lot of practicing and getting a lot of laps to be able to know how the car feels to go well over 200, 215 miles an hour.
There were thousands of young drivers who raced on ovals, drivers with the potential to be national icons like Gordon, and every single one would go to NASCAR from that point forward. Road racers could adapt to ovals, but there was no expectation an oval driver could adapt to a road course.
I'm sad to see so many of our tremendous drivers ending up in NASCAR. It's a great series, and I go to all their races, but they don't need all of the best drivers. I'd like to see a few of them come to open wheel.
It's so crazy seeing
like problems in the late 80s. IndyCar was on the
this
upswing
footage of
by
how
the
popular
mid-90s.
NASCAR was
It was a
back
strong
then.
series that filled tracks with spectators and attracted some of the world's road racers like Emerson Fittipaldi,
After getting
Nigel
into
Mansell,
it just recently.
and even Ayrton Senna, who tested once for Roger Penske and said he wanted to race in IndyCar after Formula One.
I might race anything, Indy or NASCAR, just for fun. It's just going to be completely different for me.
By 1993, Ford returned to support IndyCar. Honda entered in 1994. More sponsorship was coming in, and the amount of entries per race was growing.
There will be a NASCAR Winston Cup stock car event here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The name of the event will be the Brickyard 400, and it will be a 400-mile, 160-lap race.
Okay.
While the Brickyard 400 could be a great event by itself, it would also be a huge moneymaker for the track.
Like, look at
Tony
how
George could use that extra money
full
to fund
the
his own
grandstands
IndyCar
are.
series if he
It's
wanted.
mental.
It was speculated that
Compared
Bill
to now.
France Jr. encouraged George to take power in IndyCar. In NASCAR, the France family
I wonder if
controlled the
NASCAR
biggest
will
event
ever
in the entire series.
go back to being
Worked
that
very
popular.
well for them.
Let me know in the comments if you think they will.
On January
If
7th,
you followed NASCAR for a
1994,
while.
Andrew Craig was
So I've only
named
got into it
president of
recently,
CART.
so I
Later
don't really
that
have a
day,
leg to
Tony
stand on.
George resigned from the board of directors.
He quits. Oh.
Whether you consider IndyCar strong or in need of an infusion of new blood and ideas, Craig's message has been well defined. Get the ship running leaner and more efficient. Unquestionably, the most terrific show is the Indianapolis 500, sanctioned by USAC, run by Tony George, the Speedway's president.
I can't wait to watch my first
When Craig was
Indy
hired,
500 this
George
year.
resigned from the IndyCar board. But Craig
I'm
won't
gonna
let
do a
that
live
develop
watch along
into
to
a
it.
schism between the two parties.
I know that Tony has some very clear views, and obviously I respect those views. Some very clear views about the sport and how it should develop.
Oh dear. There's
On
a
March 11th,
storm brewing.
1994, while teams were in Australia for the season-opening race, George made an announcement back in Indianapolis. Unless things changed, he would create his own series.
The Indianapolis Motor Speedway issued a press release saying that there is the possibility they will create a whole new IndyCar series within the next 2 years.
Right.
The Speedway president, Tony George, indicates he is dissatisfied with the current course of IndyCar racing. All other details will come out after this year's Indianapolis 500.
Well, I don't know that, that it'll actually
He's got no words.
In that, you know, it'll be totally different from what we have today, but I think obviously I have some strong feelings that I would like one last chance at trying to impress upon the kart organization, see if we can't, you know, go forward together. But in the event that's not possible, then, you know, maybe an entirely new series with more of an American flavor would be the result.
From IndyCar's point of view, it wasn't entirely a surprise. Certainly over the last few months, and indeed last couple of years, there has been a growing gap, if you like, in the philosophy between ourselves and the philosophy of the Speedway. So from our point of view, while we're perhaps surprised by the timing of the announcement, the direction and the content of the announcement was something which perhaps we already anticipated.
At Indianapolis in May 1994, the uncertain future of IndyCar
the
racing
poshest
hung
British
over the
accent
event.
I've ever heard.
Meanwhile, Team Penske unveiled their new private Mercedes
And I'm
engine,
British.
nicknamed the Beast. It cost a lot to develop. Penske cars hit 250 miles per hour entering turn 3 in practice, and the team dominated the race. In early July, the future was confirmed. The new Indy Racing League would officially debut in 1996. IndyCar racing was split once again.
IRL.
In August, the IRL announced they would use non-turbocharged V8 engines that would keep costs down.
Yeah.
That's what people wanted to see, or so they thought. What the split did was make the popularity gap between NASCAR and IndyCar even wider as open-wheel racing began to devour itself.
Oh no. To be continued. Wow. Yeah, that was very interesting. I'm excited to watch part 2. I feel like I watched a video on IndyCar, I can't remember which one it was, where they explained very briefly. It just went through like how IndyCar like came to be and went through the 70s and 80s and 90s, and briefly mentioned USAC and kart and IRL, and I was watching it, I was like, what the hell are they talking about? This has given me a good insight into that, which is what I was hoping it would do. So I am very much looking forward to watching part 2. So with that being said, if you have any other videos that you'd like me to react to, drop them in the comments. I'm working my way through everybody's suggestions at the moment. If you did want to check out any of my other socials, they are all linked down below. And if you want to become a member on this channel and receive exclusive perks, you can also do that by hitting the join button down below. But I hope you enjoyed today's reaction, and I will catch you next time for the next one. Bye!